The elephant in the meditation room is unconsciousness. No one is speaking about it. And unconsciousness is ineffable. There's no knower. There's no experiencer. There's no time. There's no space. And regardless of what precipitates unconsciousness, whether it's flatlining or nirvana samadhi or dreamless sleep or feigning or coma or forever before you were born, the utter naught of it still remains. You cannot differentiate. Some call unconsciousness Turiya or Parabrahman for lack of a better word, and then say it's timeless. That means eternity in that regard doesn't mean time ticking off. There's no venue for that to occur. More akin to stillness that never started, and something that started is going to last a long time. So what these non-dual people do, they come upon the veil of the ineffable, of unconsciousness, and paint their air castles. And put forth that they know something that somebody else doesn't. It's just entertainment. It's glorified entertainment for a captive audience. It's a sham. Religion paints on the veil of the ineffable an air castle that's totally fiction, and no two are alike. The real takeaway is that unconsciousness is profoundly benign. If you survive it, no problem. Nobody grumps about dreamless sleep. If you go in for major surgery, one minute you're laying on the gurney getting ready to go in, and the next second you're in the recovery room. All the time and space and conversation, thought, all of it utterly gone and not retrievable. And there's nothing bad that happened. All the doctrines of sin are vanished. There's nothing but good news. There's nothing to be afraid of. And you can put words like nirvana samadhi on this state, or turiya, or you can just say I was unconscious. Same. Many times people would go to Ramana Maharshi, and the poor guy, the guy never read any of the books. He ran away from home because he had a panic attack, and he didn't want the responsibilities of a household or anything like that. He dropped out, like a kid in the hippie kid, and ran away from home. Didn't say anything. Then a Hindu yogi discovered him, noticed a certain peace or stillness about it, and named him Ramana Maharshi and built this thing. But then this yogi, his name was Kavya Kantha, turned all these devotees over to him. There had hundreds of devotees coming to kiss his feet, and he had to speak to them some way. So this Hindu yogi had to tutor Ramana Maharshi in a vocabulary to speak to these people in a language they would understand. For instance, they would ask him about reincarnation, for instance. and he would weave it into Hindu mythology in kind of a way, but go along with that air castle painted on that veil. And then he'd finish off and say, the truth is there's no such thing as reincarnation. That's the truth. And he did that numerous times after spilling out all this Hindu garbage. But that's who he was talking to. That was the language that they understood, the culture. He was raised a Brahmin. His mama was on him all the time. She was a strict Brahmin. But he would bring people back to your dreamless sleep, and how bad off were you there? Why are you worried about death? It's simple. Doesn't need all the religious stuff around it or anything. To be as you are is as simple as it gets. Natural, simple. Whatever that is. States of consciousness are always changing. There's no state of consciousness that's permanent. Every state of change of consciousness morphs into something else, and into something else, into something else. The only constant thing is this periodic unconsciousness that we go into every night and like it in hindsight. We feel rested. No air castles, no philosophy, no nothing. So that's where these hucksters play, behind the veil of the ineffable. They paint their air castles, and it's all a sham. Where's the seeker in dreamless sleep? There isn't one. There's nothing else either. Doctrines of sin are just more air castles painted on the veil of the ineffable that frighten people. Make them think of afterlife. There's something called an afterlife that we don't know anything about. Seems like the afterlife is in kids. That's how DNA works. Seems like you wouldn't even need DNA to do what it does if everybody's living forever. It doesn't add up. So speaking of one spiritual experience, it's just one in an infinite number that's coming down to everybody. It's all mixed up, and there's no sameness in any of it. Non-duality is unconsciousness. Duality is consciousness. Seer and seen arise and set together. You cannot take the seer from the seen and throw the seen away and have the seer living up in space with no eyes to see, no nose to smell, no mouth to taste, no ears to hear, no brain to paint pictures, no fingers to touch, no genitalia, no nothing. Horrors. Horrors. Okay, conscious. Bullshit. And we look around, the religions are based on hate. And let me explain why I say that. Because their good God hates this thing called evil. Well, there's many sets of good and evil as there are people. Whatever pisses you off is evil, and whatever pleases you is good. But the kitty doesn't know it. Trees don't know it. The plant doesn't know it. The grass doesn't know it. Elephants don't know it. Fish don't know it. It comes from these doctrines of sin. They say how bad something is. It puts out model of behavior, whether it means you go to hell and burn forever or you get reincarnated as an untouchable. The threat and fear is still there with no need for it. So I say the attention for the non-duality crowd, if they're really interested in non-duality, it should be on unconsciousness. And when I had a friend whose son died in an automobile accident, it didn't always kill him, but he was brain dead, young, beautiful man, beautiful body. I went over to Duke Hospital and went into his room just after they had him in there, and he was there, and he was being respirated. He had an EEG running, and it was flat. And about that time, the parents came in, the doctor came in, and I was privy to the talk. That talk was about harvesting organs and how that would happen. They would bring in people who needed all the different organs, get them into the operating rooms throughout the hospital, harvest all of his parts, and then distribute them out to all these people who needed those parts, who had a living brain, because his brain was dead. So they agreed. I was there when that decision went, while he's still on the respirator, to harvest his parts. They knew damn well that brain, that consciousness was not going to return. And they knew that there's no spirit or anything. That was an animal with a dead brain. And if it wasn't kept on a respirator, it wouldn't survive. They knew what they were doing. Now a lot of people have a new kidney, another new kidney, a heart, lung, eyes, different part organs, liver transplanted to a host of other people who had brains that were conscious. I think these are facts. These doctors were going on facts.
I've heard you say a lot of great things when you were down here a few years ago. We did that gathering. Some of the things you said were brilliant, and this is definitely one of your best statements. I love the part about non-duality is unconsciousness, and consciousness is duality. That seems so obvious, and yet the people who are seeking non-duality and to be conscious of it when it's happening don't really see it that way. Am I right?
You're correct. You're correct. And this New Age crowd in non-duality is just as off base as MAGA.
Yeah, and MAGA's pretty. Speaking of MAGA, this is kind of a beautiful day. The trial started this morning in New York. All right. You can run, but you can't hide.
We're all rooting for the porn star.
Yeah, her nickname for Trump is Tiny.
Is this knowable, this idea of the subject object mutually arising?
Well, when you have a dream, you're there. When you don't, you're not. Every single time they arise together and they dissipate together. When you go into unconsciousness, everything disappears together. Time, space, the venue, all of it disappears. You ever had a little bit of anesthesia? It'll teach you real quick. The brain is very biological, and after 2 minutes with no oxygen blood going in it, it's useless. That's a fact. And you can dream you're dying and wake up and be fine, but you can't die when you're alive and wake up being fine. So that's discernment to tell the difference between a dream and here. Mortal reality. If I cut my hand in a dream, I wake up, there's no blood on the sheets, and my shoes are still by the bed. So there's a difference in the dream and this. And there's a difference between the dream, this, and dreamless sleep or unconsciousness. So unconsciousness is non-duality. There's no subject or object. There's no knower known pulling and playing with each other. There's no seen and seer together. Both gone. When one comes back, the other comes back. See, when you wake up, seer and seen emerge together. You go to sleep, they fall together. Consciousness is a mortal function of the brain, and this is silly to try to separate the function of the brain, which is consciousness, and the physical brain. It's like separating seeing in the eyeball or hearing in the eardrum or touching in fingers. The function and the organ are synonymous. The heart beats. You don't have a heartbeat without a heart. You don't have a heart without a heartbeat. They go together. These are things that go together. And these non-dualists want to dual apart all of that stuff. They think that somehow consciousness is going to float up out of the brain and survive. Or maybe go usurp some precious young child's body, some decrepit old soul, go into this little baby's body to work out his old sins. How disgusting. Give that fresh baby, every form of life is unique and beautiful as it is. Not with some old decrepit soul in there trying to work out its old problems. Crazy. Crazy people.